Hi, I'm Beth, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute little softie from Sizzix. Okay, to start with, we're going to cut out all of the layers that we need, all the pieces. We're going to remove the adapter and the platform from the Big Shot Plus, pop that to one side for another project. So we've got our die here. I've laid up my fabric on top. I'm going to need 8 of the limbs cut out because they form the arms and the legs. Once I've got the fabric just laid up exactly on the spot I need, I'm going to pop my other pad on top. And simply roll it through the machine, just tucking any fabric to one side. There we go. And once that's all gone through, I then have my 8 limbs cut out, and I can go on to cut out all the rest of the pieces. I'm going to need 2 of the heads, I'm going to need 4 ear pieces, and 1 of the nose and 1 of the snout, and 2 of the body pieces. So you have all of your cut pieces, and we're going to start by making the face. First of all, take 1 of your head pieces. Do note that these 2 parts of the template are asymmetrical, so make sure you're matching up pairs throughout the project. We'll come back to that in a moment. So I'm going to take the snout first and place that onto the face. I've stitched by machine, but you could obviously do that by hand as well, and you can create a lot of different looks simply by changing where you've placed things, adding more character features as you go. I stitched very close to the edge around on there, and then I've placed my snout, placed the nose on top of the snout, and then without pinning it in place, unless you feel you really need to, I've then stitched that one on top. If you've got that base piece of the calico, it makes it a lot easier to turn around in the sewing machine. Then for the eyes on mine, I've simply done some French knots. You could, of course, add on a little mouth. You could add on eyebrows and eyelashes, all sorts of little features. You may want to wait until the end to add anything if you're doing things with fabric glues or pens, just so that you can get a look of the look of the finished product complete. Okay, so here I have the step-by-steps for the ears and the limbs. You've got 2 of your ear pieces just there. Using a narrow seam allowance, I've stitched round the edge to create this one here. As you can see, what I've then done is clipped the edges. What this means is that when I then turn it out, it makes it a lot easier to fold and get a smooth edge around the edge of my shape. So just clipping all of those edges, I've then turned it out. For me, I use a pen, or you could use a chopstick, something like that, just to make sure you push out all the way to those edges. You're going to repeat that with both of the ears, obviously, and you could play around with the ear shape if you wanted to create slightly longer ears, if you fold your fabric right when you're cutting it out, or to make pointy ears, so you can make a little cat, or you can make a rabbit, anything you like. When you're stitching these in, you could also add a little pleat and give a little fold. The fabric you use will also affect exactly how they look. I've repeated the process for the legs and the arms, so what we have here is, again, 2 layers. We've stitched all the way around the edge here. We've clipped into that to make it easier to turn, and then it's been turned inside out. And the way that you turn it inside out is just simply by folding it up and then pushing it all the way through. With this longer one, you will need something like a pen, obviously with the lid on, or a chopstick, just to make sure you get all the way through to the end. And that's going to give you this one here. Then I've stuffed it using just a nice toy stuffing. And again, I've pushed the wadding all the way down to the base using a chopstick. You're going to repeat that with all of the limbs so that you've got 4 completed legs, and you've also got your 2 completed ears. Okay, so I'm going to take my completed ear and I'm going to put it on the face that I've already created. Now when you're stitching these, you're going to want to make sure that all of your seams and all of your hems are going to be tucked inside. So you're going to start by placing the ears over like this. You can see from this placement here, I've done quite a sideways placement, but you could move the ears around onto different areas of the head to give a different look. Probably my favourite thing of this is that actually if the ears are in the right place, on mine it looks like he's hiding his eyes. So I've placed those in just where I want them, and then I've stitched again incredibly close. That's not a 1/4 inch seam because I want to make sure it doesn't show when I've got my finished animal head stuffed. So a very, very narrow seam allowance all the way along there, and then that's going to give me my 2 ears in place, ready to be attached to the body. Okay, so the next stage is attaching the body to the head. The way to do that is to put your right sides together and attach the neck and the head. So I just like to put a couple of pins in place to make sure I've got the corners matched up. And once those are in place, you can use a 1/4 inch stitch seam allowance along there. When that's stitched, that's going to give you the body like this. And as you can see here, I've attached the arms. Again, with the arms, you can attach them at any height to give a different look. And you could also make them shorter or longer if you wanted to, mostly shorter, just by tucking them in a little bit more. So again, I've done exactly the same thing as I did with the ears, and I've put them into the place where I wanted them, pinned them when I was making those, pinned it in place, and then done a really narrow seam allowance, as you can see here, so that when they're joined, they fold out. The piece I've got here is for the back, and as I said before, you do need to make sure that with the head and the body that you're matching up the shapes, because you do have a slightly asymmetrical head and an asymmetrical body part. So just make sure that you've got the long edge of the body part on one side and the short edge on one side, and you haven't got a wonky bottom. Okay, once you've got to that part, we're then going to attach the front and the back together. So for the next part, we're going to attach the front and the back together. To do that, I'm going to tuck the arms and the ears back inside, so I've got my edge of my bear fully exposed. I'm then going to get the back and line that one up. I'm going to use a few pins to hold it in place, especially important around the neck, just so you make sure that the back and the front of the body match up. And I'm just going to pin the whole way round. Make sure as well that you pay special attention to where you have got the ears in place and also the arms, as you want to make sure that the fabric lies really smoothly there so that it doesn't interrupt or make the sewing on the machine harder. And again, you can do this by hand as well, but I'm just going to have pinned all the way around, and you can see here I've got it where I've finished this, pinned all the way around and stitched with a 1/4 inch the whole way. So then what I'm going to do is turn it inside out. Because you've got those arms, you can actually use the arms to help you pull it the right way out. Okay, and then as it comes through, you can also use the ears just to help you turn out the head. There we go. He might need a little bit of a press after that crinkling. Okay, so there we have essentially the head and the body of your softie. We're then going to need to stuff it, and then I'll show you how to attach the legs as well. Next up, we're going to attach the legs in exactly the same manner that we did with the arms. So taking the stuffed legs that you've got, you're going to attach them along the bottom edge to the front of the softie, and you're going to pin it in place. Now on mine, I've stitched that in by machine, and I've repeated that on the second leg, which you can see just here. So as you can see, I've got a partially stuffed bear here. I've used a pen just to help me push the stuffing right down into the head to make sure I haven't got any gaps, and I've got some stuffing here which I've already teased nice and loose, and I'm just going to fill up the body cavity with that. Once you've filled that up, you can do it as loose or as tight as you like, as full as you like. And then we're going to take the back edge of the body and fold over the seam allowance and then attach it to that front part. I'm just going to turn that bit over now. And with that folded edge, I'm going to start by pinning at the legs. Once the legs are in place, I'm just taking care to make sure that the stitching is covered up so you can't see any of that machine stitching where I've attached the legs. I'm then going to go back and just make sure I've caught all the edges back along the rest of the bottom, along the rest of the base. And it's better to put more pins in at this stage and make sure you've got it lined up exactly as you want it. And then you know that you're not going to have to come back and tweak it afterwards. So just checking along there that you've got all of those edges caught in place, and then using a running stitch, just running the thread all the way along, taking special care around the legs just to make sure that you have definitely caught all of that fabric in place. You haven't got any gaps where the stuffing can come out. Once you've done that, fasten off your thread and you've got yourself a finished softie. As you've already seen, we can move the eyes, we can put the eyes in different places, add detail to the mouth, we can add a scarf, we can change the fabrics, and there are so many ways to make this bear your own. So for more inspiration, hints and tips, do head on over to our website and blog. You can also find us on Pinterest and on Instagram. If you do make one of these cute little softies, don't forget to take a picture and to tag us in it. We'd love to see your makes. Enjoy.